Hello, hello. I've been asked to talk about descending and I think it is something that when you first start riding or you first start wanting to go on hills, climbing hills, you've got to come downhill. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that because when I first started riding, I was probably the most scared person you've ever met about descending. I was petrified to do it. So I feel like I can kind of share the things that I've learned, and like obviously you've seen now from my latest videos that I'm more than happy to kind of and quite confident to go down any kind of mountain or descent. If you are feeling worried or like a bit concerned about descending, don't worry, we all do when we first start out. Well, I definitely did. I was like, this is scary stuff. So how can I help you to be able to descend? So a couple of little tips that I think will help. So the first tip would be to go at your own pace. This is like the main tip that I would say is don't feel like you've got to keep up with your mates. Don't feel like you've got to do a certain speed down there. You've got to feel confident and comfortable in what you're doing, because there's nothing worse than someone going, come on, hurry up, and you feeling like you have to keep up, because that is just, it's just looking for an accident. Because if you don't feel comfortable and confident, like, no, you need to do your own pace. So ride at your own pace and ignore them. Just tell them you'll meet them at the bottom. If your friends are there, be like, I'll meet you at the bottom. I'm just going to take my time. So now that you're going to go at your own pace, let's actually talk about braking. So the second tip that I would say is feather your braking. Do not slam your brakes on. Don't ever get kind of to a point where you're going that fast where you need to slam your brakes on. So the best thing to do is feather your braking. So I'm going to show you now a little overlay clip of how to actually feather your brakes. That's the best way at just reducing your speed rather than like slamming on your brakes to actually try and stop. So just gradually, slowly feather your braking as you're descending. So that's another thing that I learned is feathering brakes. It just means that you are not as like jerky, you're not like slamming brakes on. It just makes it for a lot more pleasant experience descending. Another tip that I would give you is to stay on your own line. And if you don't know what that means, is so when you're descending, like almost like pick a line in the road and kind of stick to it, because even on sportives where they're meant to be experienced riders, people are all over the road, and that is so dangerous, because if you've got other cyclists coming past you and you all of a sudden like come off your line and come out in the middle of the road, they're not going to be expecting that. So try and keep on a steady kind of line as you're going around corners and around bends, and just kind of, yeah, just stay in your own line, just stay in your line, and that'll be good. That's a very good tip to remind you, because I wasn't really aware of that until a little bit more into my cycling, and I was like, oh, there is such a thing as that. So I found that very interesting. So yeah, kind of stay on your own line. Another tip is almost like a physical one. So make sure your cranks are horizontal, not vertical. So as you're gonna go around corners or like bending or kind of a way like that, you don't want your cranks to hit the floor. So if you're going around a corner to the right, you would lift your right leg. Sorry, so yeah, so if it's on a right corner, you lift your right leg higher up so that you're not going to hit the crank on the floor. So that's also just like a physical thing. You just have to be aware of where your cranks are if you're going to be taking kind of sharp corners or bending around. I'm sure that you're not, but if you kind of want to go from kind of starting your descending and getting more confident as you kind of progress, that will be something that you need to think about. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And this is a really, really important tip, is to descend, sorry, I've got something in my eye, is to descend roads and hills that you know and that you are comfortable with, because there's nothing worse than kind of going to the Alps and then just like being like, right, now learn to descend. Try and get more confident, even just on that little gradients, just get confident that way on gradients that you know, and then you can build up to kind of steeper gradients, because yeah, you will get more confident and comfortable as you are used to your own bike, because the brakes that you've got on your bike are going to be, hopefully they'll be fine. The brakes I've got are Shimano 105, and I think they're really, really good brakes. So that's another thing. Make sure that your brakes are good and the brake pads are pretty new or aren't worn, you want to make sure that your actual brakes themselves are actually in good working order. Probably should have mentioned that before. So yeah, make sure your brakes are actually working. But yeah, I really like the 50. I think they're the 5800. So 105 5800 dual pivot caliper brakes. So they are good brakes. If you are going to go to another country, or you're riding on roads that you don't know, use the map on your Garmin or your Wahoo or whatever kind of bike computer that you've got. I find that so helpful. So as I'm kind of descending, I'll just keep glancing down to look where the hairpins are coming, so that I'm not just going to be like, oh my god, there's a hairpin. So you're able to kind of see the road before you get there. I find that one of the most helpful things when descending in places that I don't know. So that is something that you could do as well. But I would start off by riding on kind of hills and gradients that you know, and then when you want to progress into either other cities or other countries, then use the actual map function on your Garmin or Wahoo. And I think the last thing is kind of just like to tie it all back around to the start is, again, and I'm saying this point again, go at your own pace. Do not worry what other speeds other people are riding down, because we've all got our own kind of cycling journey to kind of go with. And I was really scared at the start, and it is quite scary, and someone else telling you to hurry up is just not going to help. You need to just get used to it yourself, and the more that you ride, the more you get to trust your bike and trust what it's capable of and what you're capable of, because ultimately you are in control of that bike. So you are then able to know, oh, actually, yes, I know I can go down here because I've got the ability to be able to brake when I need to brake. So I think that's quite an important one to remember. Just go at your own pace. And then this is kind of like a little add-on, because this is kind of personal preference, is whether you brake on the hoods or on the drops. And so for me, when I first started, I actually had like the stabilizer brakes kind of like on the top, which were just good. They were just like mountain bike brakes, basically, like the beginner ones, because it was an entry-level bike. They came with it, and I got used to them. And then I moved on to the hoods, but for the longest time I couldn't brake on the drops because I was just so scared of it. So that's personal preference. On the drops you do get a stronger braking kind of power because you've got more leverage, whereas on the hoods you haven't. But I would just go for what you feel most comfortable with. If you're more comfortable on the hoods, go for the hoods. More comfortable on the drops, go for the drops. But again, it's personal preference. So I really hope those tips have helped. And if you've got any more questions to do with either, anything to do with bikes really, or specifically descending, leave it in the comments below and I will answer them and try and help you. So also, if you have got any tips about descending or how people can improve their confidence on descending, then also put a comment below, try and help people out, because we're just one big happy family, one big cycling community. So it is good to have kind of experience from and tips from experienced riders. So that is quite useful. And if you like this video, you find it helpful, then give me a thumbs up if that would be okay. I would appreciate it. So that is it for this video. I will see you next video. Right, see you later. Bye.